to the Doctor Who Marathon. I'm your host, McEdam, and today we're going to be talking about Horror of Glam Rock, written by Paul Marge. Now, before I talk about this story at all, that title makes me sick while saying it. I absolutely hate that title. For those of you who don't know, Horror of Glam Rock, the title anyway, is a parody of the Horror of Fang Rock, a Fourth Doctor story, and is considered by many to be one of his best stories. But anyway, what I really hate about this title is that it alludes to something similar like that. I mean, it's Horror of Glam Rock. Like, you have Fang Rock, Glam Rock. But apart from that, the stories are no connection with it. So it just seems like Big Finish went, hey, Horror of Glam Rock, am I right? Oh, I'm so clever. And I will admit, I might have, in my first ever listening to this when I got it back, I believe it was around 2013 when I first heard this story. I felt like I might have been a bit too harsh on it. That I felt like I wasn't giving the story a fair enough props because I just hated that title and I wasn't too keen on the idea of this story revolving around their like glam rock band. I think that was doesn't feel like Eighth Doctor, at least what I consider an Eighth Doctor story. But however, listening back every time, I think this is like the third time I've ever listened to this, I hoped that my opinions of it will be a bit more clear at the very least. And maybe I'd be like, right, I was too harsh last time. This time would be much better experience, as I hope. But we'll see into the story. Now, another strange thing I want to note about this story is its cast. This story has a fantastically big cast, not in terms of how many characters and stuff in there. In fact, there's only a few characters in the story. But they're all cast by like big named actors. Probably the biggest one is Bernard Crimmins. Yes, Wilfred himself is in an audio drama, although he's playing a different character, a manager of a band. There's also Una Stubbs, yes, Mrs. Hudson from Sherlock, she's in this. And also, as well, playing the role of Tommy, who's actually like one of the main characters in this story, is none other than Stephen Gately, aka one of the founding members of Boyzone. This is actually, this came out in 2007, so this was 2 years before he sadly passed away. So that is a bit of a shame, but his acting, he's clearly new to acting. He is kind of struggling, and it does kind of seem a bit more stunt casting than anything else. But the fact that he's in a Big Finish audio drama, not the TV, Big Finish, shows you just how much Big Finish takes their story seriously. That to them, this is high standard Doctor Who that's worth putting out the money for celebrities and these fantastic other actual actors in the rest of the story. So yeah. Oh, and before I get into the cover section of this video, the end credits have a new rendition of the Doctor Who theme in the style of 1970s rock music, specifically bands like The Doors. I really like it. I know a lot of people don't like it. I personally really like it. Especially the people singing in it. But yeah. So anyway, this is the cover of the official Big Finish CD cover. Yes, there's a massive crack on my cover. I don't know how that happened. I always take good care of my CDs, but somehow they're here. They're the main two, Tommy and Trishta on the cover there, with the only one in the background there. And like always, I've printed out my own DVD cover, in which I've taken this off a DeviantArt profile, with the exception of the logo, which I've replaced with the old TV movie DVD logo. So it matches with the rest of my DVDs. So anyway, that's the front of it. You've got Bernard Crimmins there. I know it's oddly paced. I should really design my own cover for this. I'm not too keen on how that turned out, like how his face, Tommy's face is like half on it, and it actually bleeds onto the sides. You can kind of see an eye there. But anyway, here's the spine if anyone's interested. It looks really okay. Looks okay. And here's the back. So that's pretty good. Look, you can see Bernard Crimmins there. God, I love Bernard Crimmins. He's one of my favourite actors to ever work on Doctor Who. Both as in his performance and just the fact he's just such a lovely old man in real life. Fun fact, he actually played a character in the 1960s Doctor Who movie, The Daleks' Invasion of Earth 2050 AD. The ones that star Peter Cushing, which we haven't tackled on the marathon. Maybe after the marathon I'll talk about it, who knows. So there you go, that's the DVD cover. So, on to the video. So, the Doctor and Lucy actually tried to head off into Lucy's time, but as I stated before, there seems to be some sort of barrier around that time zone, stopping the Doctor taking Lucy back to her own time. So the closest he can get is 1970, I believe they say 1976. I'm sure, 1974, sorry. The days of glam rock, where David Bowie is at his prime, and Lucy is like, this is like way before me. I wasn't even born yet, but it's still really cool to go back in time. And the Doctor kind of nerds out about his love for like these glam rock bands and stuff, and they seem to have landed on like a motorway where it's snowing, leaving a great visual atmosphere when the characters describe this really cold, isolated area. And there seems to be a truck stop, a famous truck stop, where loads of celebrities have passed on this route and come and have a cup of coffee with them. Whilst there, we see characters Pat and Flo. Flo is the character played by Una Stubbs, and Pat basically explains that she was in a rock band, but one of the managers turned them down because they were so bad, and then the band broke up, and she basically is depressed that that the band's broken up, and that if she ever saw the manager, she would kill him. And Flo is just like listening on to the story, and she's just like, yeah, okay, I'm just glad to have some company. I'm just glad to have someone human to talk to, and not just people that are constantly playing music and stuff. It's nice to have a little chat after a while. Now, I'm not going to really talk much about the story itself, because after we get introduced to three other characters, Bernard Cribbins' character, Arnold Kahn, I'm just going to call him Arnold, a manager who is representing these two young teenagers, a brother and sister duo who's starting up with a band called the Tomorrow Twins. Tommy, the son, played by, not the son, Tommy, the boy of the group, seems to be talking to himself and communicating with some sort of alien creatures using a stylophone. For those of you who don't know, a stylophone is like a musical instrument that uses electrical wavelengths or something like that. It's a really strange instrument. And Apparently they're really hard to learn. A lot of the cast members on the documentary on the CD explain that like they tried to use a xylophone, but it sounded absolutely horrible. It's probably a good reason why they went so out of fashion. Tommy is played by Stephen Gately, and his performance leaves much more to be desired. I mean, I don't want to knock him out too bad. It's clearly he was there to be stunt casting, and because he is a famous musician, so they wanted like that connection. But he's not an actor. He's not an actor. He does all right for a newbie, and I will admit that, like, I think he has potential. I think he had potential, which is a shame that he passed away so young. But yeah, it's clearly like somebody at the very start of their acting career. Patricia, she's like the normal one that kind of grounds Tommy and explains to him what's going on. Now, after the Doctor and Lucy actually discover a body of a glam rocker on the outside, and they come to this cafe to try and warn everybody about the creatures, that there are creatures attacking. The story suddenly becomes a run-of-the-mill in terms of its plot, base under siege. And when it becomes this plot, the story doesn't know how base under siege stories work in terms of its plot. Because really, the base under siege element of this story, I don't think works in terms of the villain's point of view and the actual narrative of it. It feels very like you've seen this 100 times, with the only difference being the setting, essentially. You have monsters outside trying to break in, and the Doctor's organising each character to barricade doors. You got this one character, Ron the... trying to remember his name. Ron the trucker. He acts like he knows it all. It's like there's nothing out there, and he opens the doors, he goes out, and he gets massacred. And yeah, so in terms of like the plot itself, it's really mundane, and there's not really much to talk about in terms of the plot. You've seen this kind of story 100 times, especially in Doctor Who. The term base under siege. Yeah, if you like base under siege, in that just you like the pure premise of it, you're gonna love this story. Now, I like base under siege stories very much, especially in the second Doctor era, by just how serious Doctor Who usually takes them. That the threat on the outside is so dangerous and so dark, and they're always set in like these militarized bases where you feel like they should be well stocked, that these people know what they're handling. But when things come out of their control, makes the threats just so much more levelated. And I think what underlines this great status quo for Doctor Who in this story is that the base under siege element isn't really taken seriously. After one character gets bloody mutilated in front of everyone, Arnold is very very determined to get the two twins on the road again. So because he's got to get them on top of the pops the next day, and he actually threatens to take Trish and Tommy, like grab them by the arms and letting them go. And it's just like it's great for character. I mean, Arnold is he's played by Bernard Crimmins. The man can't do any wrong, and Bernard Crimmins plays this character, this sleazy producer who just wants to profit off these two young musicians. He plays the character very well, but it makes the threat seem a lot less interesting. Sure, they're threatening and they kill people, anyone who goes outside, but in terms of their role in the plot, they could have easily just gone, I am the monster, I'm going to eat you all, in that kind of sense. So that element, I think, doesn't work. One aspect of bus stories which really does work in this story is its development of the characters. With the idea of the story, one of the things I used to hate when listening to this, and has actually now grown on me, is its characters. Each character, in terms of how they're written, are very interesting. You've got Tommy, this young, strange lad who mucks around with a xylophone, uses it to create music, and he uses it to communicate with these aliens. They call themselves the Only Ones because, according to Tommy, they explain to him that there are only two life forms, highly intelligent life forms in the entire universe. Humans and the Only Ones. So they're the only other ones, in a sense. And so they come out and communicate with Tommy, hoping to communicate, to make peace with humans, or at least that's what we're led to believe. And originally, all the other characters doesn't take him very seriously until the Doctor basically realizes there is something a bit more to it than that. And after him, he sends Lucy, Tommy, and Trisha on a little scouting mission. Tommy plays with the xylophone, and actually Lucy and Trisha start hearing voices. Basically explaining what he's hearing is 100% real. And so Lucy comes back to meet up with the Doctor, and it's at this point where Arnold becomes really impatient and grabs Trish by the arm and tells Tommy to try and come out to the cafe so they can get in the car. However, when the beast starts attacking, it kills Trish and doesn't actually kill Arnold, leaving Tommy in such a state of frenzy that his sister has just died, that he actually tries to run off, and he accidentally leaves his xylophone, allowing the Doctor to get his hands on it and trying to communicate with the Only Ones, because he feels like there's something a bit more to them than what they're led to believe. We also have Flo, who I really, really love. Una Stubbs gives a fantastic performance of her. This girl, she's been around the block a few times, if you know what I mean. She's seen everything. She's sat in this cafe. She's heard all the stories. She's heard all the band stories. There's a great moment where Pat is talking about her dreams about being a big rock star, a big person in the industry, and Flo, she's just like, maybe it's for the best. I've seen so many people come in this bar talking about their dreams, and for 1% of people that actually make it, there are a lot of dark and depressing stories about the 99, and even with those 1%, there's dark stories that follow them as round. So maybe it's not all for the best that you get this massive career that you have been asking for. Now, one character I've been savouring up is Pat herself. Pat, it turns out that Arnold was actually the producer that turned her down because he thought they sounded terrible. But Pat has a much bigger role in terms of not just this story, but in future stories. She's not just any Pat. She is Lucy's anti-Pat. And Lucy, throughout the story, Lucy is like, do I recognise you? I'm sure I've seen you. And then when she hears that this is Pat, this is the Pat character everyone's talking about, it clicks that she is her anti-Pat. And she basically explains that she is her sister's daughter. She's a nephew from the future. And she accidentally let slip that Pat didn't have any children of her own. In fact, she didn't go nowhere with her band. In terms of her career, she's a nobody. Now, I do like this element, especially throughout the story. Pat gets really depressed. She's thinking she really just can't catch a break. That she learns from the future that she grows up to be, to have very little in terms of to do or to say in terms of the bigger world. Basically, the illusion of her being this massive rock star was just completely cut short, and it makes for a much fascinating character. I'm not too keen on the scene of when that's revealed, because Lucy at this point has been a very fun and lovable character. Sheridan Smith, I didn't talk about it much in Blood of the Daleks, but Sheridan Smith is phenomenal. She basically is playing her rendition. If she played Rose in Doctor Who, this would be it. She's basically playing her version of Rose, but in my opinion, she's had a much better script handed to her, because the confrontation, which comes with a much more I don't want to say chavvy, because I feel like that's more of an insult and people might get the wrong idea, but she's a very street level girl. The reason why it works here, where the Doctor and her butt heads and not with Rose, is because at the start, the Doctor and Lucy are kind of forced into this situation where they've got to travel with each other. And because of that, when they actually start off button heads in such a head-button way, it really does work. And they do both slowly learn to like and adore with each other. In fact, whilst Blood of the Daleks ends with them reluctantly teaming up, this story is the one where they slowly glow, and it's like, all right, okay, we're friends now. We would love to keep this going for as long as possible. But when that scene plays with her and Auntie Pat, when she basically lets slip about her future, she says she grows up to be a nobody. Who talks like that? At the very least, you would say you didn't grow up to fulfill your dreams. You were just like you were just normal. You're out of the ordinary. Yeah, you're no one out of the ordinary. But you're nobody? That's really harsh. Apart from that scene, Lucy Miller is great throughout the story, and her development with her Auntie Pat, and how and that the fact that she brought an MP3 player into it is just fantastic. And in fact, the MP3 player actually plays a huge part in the resolution of this story. But that's just one line of dialogue where she says Pat grows up to be a nobody. I think that was really harsh, and it was forced a bit to try and bring the tension higher than it really deserves to be. But the Doctor basically communicates with the aliens that Tommy is communicating with. There's a great moment where they speak like this, and it's like, Tommy! And then when they realise that the Doctor's like, Tommy, it's you. I love that, and the music actually plays along with it as well. And they reveal, because the Doctor's now getting involved, that they actually planned to use Tommy to basically give him the idea for music, and they will make him have loads and loads and loads of human fans, where then they can feed off them. If you see, these creatures have separated from their minds, from their bodies. These are the minds of the only ones. The outsiders, these bear-like creatures killing everybody, they are the physical manifestations of these only one creatures. And the Doctor comes up with a plan to actually alterate a radio, which is where these creatures provide. They live in sound waves, and actually traps them inside Lucy Miller's MP3, or as the Doctor puts it, they're stuck on shuffle mode. Brilliant dialogue. And so that's really it. That's really much of the story. There's not really a lot to talk about here. This is also the first really one-parter, the first normal one-parter throughout. Now we're going to get like loads of one-parters in the 60-minute format, which continues into New Who, even though when this was released, New Who came first, because this came out in 2007, early 2007. This is also was played on BBC Radio, fun fact. But so yeah, that's Horror of Glam Rock. Overall, I think it's okay. Sadly, however, you can't really skip this one if this story doesn't sound interesting to you, because of its revelation with Auntie Pat, a character who would actually continue into other stories in the Lucy Miller era of the Eighth Doctor adventures. There's also a little scene with the Head Huntress, which is a build-up to the storyline in the Eighth Doctor adventures as well. That scene you can skip, but the Pat stuff in this story you do kind of need the context for. But if you're not too interested in the overarching storyline, and this story doesn't seem that interesting to you, I'd say it's skippable. The story itself doesn't have a lot of meat to chew on. It's very basic in terms of its plot and its development, but it has some really nice characters, a star of cast, like I said, Bernard Crimmins, Paul McGann, Sheridan Smith, Una Stubbs. Just the fact that Big Finish got all these people together, that's just amazing. How does anyone organise that? That is just superb. And Stephen Gately, I mean, I know I joke that he's not a good actor in this, but he is a big star, and you know, Boyzone is a popular thing. They're not my kind of thing, but they are a big musician, and the fact that they do an audio drama like this gives Big Finish anyway, like this is like stunt casting, like the show does. So yeah, get it for the characters, don't get it for the plot. It's very basic, and I can feel like you could skip this one unless you really like what you've heard in this video. So there you go, that's Horror of Glam Rock. So join me next time where the Doctor and Lucy meet up with people who, like the Doctor, change their bodies, but not in the way that you expect. So join me next time for Immortal Beloved, and I'll see you next time on the Doctor Who Marathon. Ta-da!